Good afternoon here on the KM Activities. You're home for the Comets. I'm Joel McCall, and again, thank you to KM Telecom for being our major sponsor for all interviews taking place throughout the winter. And I was wondering, boy, who am I going to get for my other interview today, for a player interview? Because last week I did 4 of them, kind of talked to everybody. We've already had some basketball on this week with both coaches. I mean, it only made sense to talk to a cheerleader. So Claire Turner is with us. She's a Castlemanville cheerleader, and she is a senior. The cheer squad just qualified for state, so we're going to talk all about that. First of all, Claire, thank you very much for coming in and doing the interview.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, you recently participated in the competition and qualifying for state. Tell me about the process. Where was this competition held? How many teams were there? Go over everything.
Okay, so qualifying for state for cheerleading is very different from like volleyball or football. You don't really there's not like brackets that you go through that's like finals and semifinals and things like that. Really, it's up to just the coach's discretion as to whether or not you go. But with the Caston team, our coach is very much like you have to earn it. So really, we could just go to state whether we got a certain number of scores or not. But our coach Nikki is really into just like you really need to earn it in order to go. So for us, last weekend, we had to at least get, the score is out of 100 for cheerleading, and we had to at least get a 60, either on the competition on Saturday or Sunday, which we ended up doing, and so it was really neat to just get that feeling where it's like, right after the competition, you're just like, all right, now it's time to prepare for state, and then at state, there's the different qualifying levels for the finals.
Okay, and what was the final score?
I believe the final score, so we either had to get Saturday or Sundays a 60. I believe Saturdays was a 59.7, I believe. And then Sundays, I believe, was a 62, I think.
Okay. So, yeah, you got over the threshold
Yes,
the second
we did.
time. What was different about the routines? Anything?
I would definitely say there was some things that were better on Saturday and some things that were better on Sunday. And if we just could have gotten them, just a little of Saturday, a little of Sunday would have been super great. But we had some falls both days, but altogether, I think they really we stepped up the energy for the cheer on Sunday rather than we did on Saturday. And then we were just a lot stronger with just stunts and being together on Sunday, and so it really changed the dynamics, and we all really wanted to go, so we had that determination and motivation in order to go to state.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you said that you could actually just go to state. You could just walk in there. Mm-hmm. For competition-wise, has this been going on a couple of years? Like, is this always the precursor to state for Castlemanville cheerleading?
Yep. So this will be my senior year will be my 7th year with the competition team in Caston. And my 8th grade year was my first year on varsity, so I actually made it my 8th grade year. And for as long as I can remember, it hasn't always been 60 points, it's just been whatever your highest score is for that season. You have to get over that on the last competitions in order to go. And so this year it just happened to be we had 2 competitions for the last weekend before state, but for as long as I can remember, our coach has been very adamant about you need to earn it. Otherwise, why even go? If you aren't really motivated and determined to go, then, why do you really earn it?
Yeah, and I could see where they're saying you got to get better throughout the season, just like anyone else. Who helps with all this choreography? Because you got to put stuff together.
Right. So at the very beginning of the season, around one of the first weekends of August, we head up to the cities for a 2-day camp at an all-star gym, and we have a few people there that help us out. Usually it's the same every year, but sometimes it's different. And they really just go throughout. They teach us new stunts, new dances, like jump routines, things like that really just add into the 2 minutes and 30 seconds that we need in order to have our routine. And then we come home and we work on that. Most of the time we end up changing the entire thing because we just find either it's too difficult or we think of something that could be cooler or just better and could get us more points. Because different stunts can get you different, amount of points. And so we really, look to them for the kind of outline, and then really our whole team just kind of goes off and our own imaginations come through, and we try new things pretty much every practice. Last night, I remember at practice, we were just trying to throw in everything that we could to see what could work, and then sometimes we go back to the original, but my biggest, my favorite part is the dance. And so the dance portion of it is we have our choreographer come in and he teaches us, and then we go back and usually, if it doesn't really add up or we move the routine, a lot of us will come together and try to figure out a different one. So we'll just change it during practice, and then it works.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just simple little things too, I'm sure, is what you have to work on. It sounds like you can take a little bit of dance and move that into. So what I've seen with Comet dancers, you could kind of use that for the cheerleading, sort of. When did you start cheering? You mentioned 8th grade. Did you do it lower levels?
Yep. So I started my 6th grade year was when you try out the year before for the following school year. So I was in dance, when I was 3 years old until 5th grade. And then my sister was a cheerleader when she was in high school, and so was my mom. So they were really pushing me to do cheer, and I was like, well, I guess I'll try it for 1 year. And so I did it my 6th and 7th grade year on the junior varsity team, and I absolutely just loved it. The environment was amazing, and it was just so much fun that I could just express myself in these ways that I never knew that I could. And then 8th grade year, I decided to try out for our sideline teams, wrestling and football, and then also the competition team, and I've been doing those since.
Okay, yeah, so a long time, and it's even ingrained in the family.
Yeah.
When your sister was in cheerleading, was she doing the same things? So does she know like her high score, and you got a higher score, and you could kind of rub that in her face?
It was kind of, so my sister graduated in 2011.
Okay.
So I remember when
I was big gap then.
Yeah, a little bit, and I remember when I would always go to practices, and so the coach, I've known her for years. Nikki's been coaching it for about as long as I've been born. She started the competition team. She went to the activities director and was like, I really think this would be like super beneficial to all the whoever wants to try it out.
For sure.
And so it's really progressed over the years. Like it's grown so much from what the first one was. And so my sister, I remember she always told me they went to state 1 year, and I think they got third. I don't really remember that much, but I remember she was super excited, and so then the first year that we went to state, which was my 8th grade year, she was right there supporting me, and it was just so much fun just to see that.
Yeah, and then she could kind of give you pointers. I'm sure she's giving you some great advice. Tell me about the team then. How many cheerleaders are there?
So we have a few different teams. We've gotten more over the years. So we have 2 elementary school teams. We have the white team, which I believe is K through 2, and this year, I believe they had 15 to 17 little girls. I can't really remember. And then we had the blue team, which was 3rd and 4th grade. It used to be one big team, and there was just too many little girls.
That sounds like chaos.
It was kind of. And so we split it up, and it really worked. They really struck through this year, and a lot of the varsity girls coached the little teams, and so it really was just amazing to see those older girls influencing the little girls. And then we have our middle school team, and that has about, I think, 12 or 13 girls on it.
Okay.
That's definitely grown over the years. And then our varsity team has 15 right now. And then our wrestling team has 6, and then I'm also the captain of that. And our football team, which I didn't do this year because I really need to focus on schoolwork and stuff like that, but our football team had 12, I think, this year with 2 alternates.
Okay. Yes, education is important, Claire.
Yes.
So I understand that. Now, you're mentioning some of these younger groups, and I'm really glad that you're helping out, because that's one thing I wrote down was, so you're helping with them. Also, didn't they make it? I mean, they made it to state too, wasn't it? The junior high kids.
Yep, the JV also made it. They had to also get a score of 60 for this weekend, and they did on Saturday. They got it right away. They got 61, and I remember they were all super excited. The JV is also just to go to state. It's just amazing. Because it's such a good thing for little girls to experience, either whether they win or not. It's just such an amazing thing to experience, so that you can watch because you can also just sit there and watch all the other teams compete and what places they get. And even if you don't get first or second, it's still really cool though. Just watch those other teams and just get that mentality in your head, okay, next year we're going to work harder and harder.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's very rewarding to see what you can do. And okay, so a couple other things. You've hit on a lot of things, which is awesome. I just have so many questions. So the dance team, of course, the Comet dancers participate and they perform in front of the basketball games. Mm-hmm. Why doesn't cheer perform during basketball?
Well, so it's kind of confusing because we have to roll out our mats in order to perform, just for safety precautions, because we're throwing people in the air, and if they land on a mat, it's a little bit, it's not very good at ever, but it's much better if you have our mats than if you would just have the basketball floor. And this year, actually, we're going to perform at the home wrestling meets right before, and so that's a really good thing that we're just going to be able to get to experience just in front of a crowd more and more times, so that at state we're not getting super nervous. So it's just another like we would think it's just another practice, but there's just a few more people there than our coaches.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm glad. That's a great thing to do because you should showcase your talent. You girls obviously work very hard, and you should get the shine in front of a great group, and it sounds like you're going to be doing that. So wrestling, that'll be coming up then when they have the home meets. If you're not familiar with I call it player interviews, so student athlete interviews, I usually have some fun. So let's talk some favorites. I always ask kids some favorites. Tell me your favorite cheer ever of doing.
My favorite cheer? Oh, I don't know. Like for like a wrestling cheer?
Yeah, that's just what I wrote down. Was just cheer.
I will say like some of the name cheers for wrestling, because wrestling has always been probably one of my favorites. We're not like a sports family. We're just kind of a quiet family, and so when I cheer for wrestling and football, like that's a time for me to just like watch the sports, and for free for wrestling you get a front row seat and you get to be right up there with the wrestlers, and it's really cool. And so I've definitely grown a love for wrestling, and so just read all the wrestling cheers and just getting to cheer for them has probably been my favorite.
Is there a favorite part of the cheer that you like, especially at competitions? You mentioned dance. Is that kind of your favorite part?
I would say dance is probably, and it's definitely the one, I wouldn't say the one thing that I'm good at, but it's definitely one of my top things that I'm good at, just because I have a little bit of a dance background back, even though it was I did ballet, so it's not really the same at all, but I had that dance background, and I just get super into it because you can just express yourself, and you can just get out there and like let the crowd know like I'm having fun with this, which is mainly a number one thing that you want. You don't want to just be sitting there straight-faced while doing a cheer, because then they're like, well, if she's not having fun, then I don't want to have fun. And then it's just not fun for anyone.
Yeah, that's true. You got to rally everyone, of course. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food is Olive Garden pasta.
Every kid says pasta. Do you have a favorite movie?
It's actually a Christmas movie. It's called The Holiday.
Okay, I've heard of it. Christmas Vacation is my favorite Christmas movie.
We watch that every year.
Yeah, I always got to watch that. And Die Hard. Don't tell me it's not a Christmas movie. How about music?
My favorite music? I definitely say country music or like musical theater music. I like all kinds of music. Like I'll be willing, but those are my two favorites.
Okay. Do you have hobbies?
Cheer is definitely, it takes up a lot of my time. But
aside from cheer,
I work at a summer camp up kind of near Bemidji. It's a Boy Scout camp, and so I work there with my brother. And so we do all kind of outdoor things.
Very cool.
So that's a lot of fun. And then I also really like to read.
Okay. Are you reading any good books right now?
Not right now.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I got into it. I couldn't stay with the book that I have right now. It's about golf, and I kind of fell out of it. Do you play any sports, or is cheerleading it then for you?
Cheerleading is basically really all that I can do, because it's year round. And now that I'm a senior, once wrestling state is done, then my season is kind of done. But tryouts are in March for the next year, and so really, like as soon as wrestling state is done, then it's really just you get back into tryouts and you get back into the workouts of the off season, and you just it's just a kind of a year-round thing if you do all three of them.
Yeah. Well, then, so one thing I wrote down was family. You've mentioned a little bit about your family. Tell me more about them, your parents, and what do they do? And it sounds like you have an older sister. Where is she? Tell me about all of them.
So altogether, I have my mom and dad. My mom, Christy, she works at Legal Assistance of Olmsted County in Rochester. They're a nonprofit that works with like child law and like family stuff like that in custody. And she's an office administrator. And then my dad, Mark, works at IBM as a software engineer, and he's been working there for a while. And so he gets to go on business trips. He's been to Hong Kong and Barcelona. And so he hasn't been on one lately, but a few years ago he went to Barcelona. And I have a twin brother named Robert, and all the time it's a family joke that, because he always talked about going to Barcelona, that my brother would be like, oh, like, stop talking about it. And so now every time my dad will, like, mention, he's like, yeah, I had that did you know I went to Barcelona? So that's kind of just a family joke. And then I have two older sisters. Kelly, she's 26. She lives in Casson with her boyfriend and her 3 cats and a dog. So I'm always there.
A lot of fur babies.
Definitely a lot of them. And so she works at Madonna Towers in HR in Rochester. And then she was the one that was in cheer. And we're really close. She's taught me almost everything that I know about everything. And then I have another sister named Laura. She lives in Miami with her boyfriend and her cat. And she moved down there, I want to say about 3-4 years ago, something like that. And so I'll see her sometimes. I'm not as close with her as I am with Kelly, but we definitely have gotten more closer over the years.
That's because of how far away she is.
Right. Yep.
That takes a precedent. It's hard. My brother lives in Houston. I understand. It's tough to have that. Well, how about what I was going to ask you about your future. I'm sure you have some plans as far as college and what you're thinking about. I really wanted to know, what have you learned from cheer? There's a lot of people that just, she's just a cheerleader and she's out there, she's just dancing around and she yells and screams and that's pretty much it. Like, there isn't a lot to it. What's been so beneficial about being a cheerleader?
For me, it's just like knowing that it's not just, what's on the outside. There's a lot more that goes into it. There's the countless hours of practicing either in the gym or when you're at home. Like, you have to like stretch and jump when you're at home and practice that routine so that you get it into your head. I don't want to say it's like plays for football because I'm not a football person. I have no idea what it is, but like with plays, like you learn them at practice and you have practice every day and you go over them. For cheer, we don't have practice every day. We might have it once, maybe even twice a week. And so it's really hard. So you really have to go home and practice. And there's many things that just go into it. And one major thing is the motivation. Like, if you don't have the motivation to do the stunts, do the dance, do everything that goes into it, it's kind of just, you're just putting in the minimal effort, and you're only as strong as your weakest player. We don't have players in cheer, but it's kind of the same mentality where we all have to be on the same page about things. And that's another thing where it's like, if you and your other base, like, if you don't know what you're doing together, it's not really going to go. It's not going to go anywhere. Right. So you really have to have that teamwork and just, like, cheer, especially this year. Our team has grown really close, and so, like, we're a huge family, and we really we motivate each other all the time. In the cheer, in our routine, which is 2 minutes and 30 seconds, like, that's all you get.
No, that's not very long.
You can't go over. You'll get, you'll get docked points over. And I would say that's definitely the most it's the most 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and it's the longest, like, ever. It's so just draining. It's just like you're pushing and pushing and pushing, and when things hit, you just start yelling. Everyone's yelling, and everyone's like, yeah, you can do it, and it's a lot of fun. You really bring your team up, and we try not to, like, blame others. Like, if a stunt falls, right, be like, oh, like, it was your fault. Like, it's different if you're kind of, like, taking the blame, where it's like, yeah, like, I didn't really do that right. Like, let's try it again. But we don't like to blame each other, because then it just, well, then I can't do it. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So definitely teamwork and motivation. And then leadership is another thing. I was a captain last year, as well as this year, for wrestling and as well as for competition. And it's really shown that in order to be a leader, you have to have the respect for the followers as much as they have respect for you as a leader. Because if you don't respect them, well, then they might not respect you.
No, they're not going to listen to you. Yep.
Right, and you really have to be open to learning new things, and because in cheer you have to be able to learn new things in order for your routine to progress and get better. And so just opening up your mind and being that type of leader is really, really important.
Well, quickly, I'm running out of time. Tell me your future plans. College?
Yep, so I'm hoping to go to a 4-year college. I'm thinking either UW Stevens Point or University of Minnesota Duluth. Those are my two top choices.
Okay.
For secondary teaching for social studies, I would really love to be a history teacher. I've always loved it. Mrs. Aberbeck and Mr. Fagg have really just, exemplified my love for history, just learning about all of the little stories that go into it to make that bigger picture. So it's like Washington, D.C. for me was an absolute dream, because you learned all these little stories about, like, Gettysburg or, the Korean
right.
War or things like that, which is really important to me because my grandpa fought in the Korean War. And so just, like, learning about all the little stories that go into the big stories is really important to me.
Yeah, for sure. And then where and when is state competition for the KM Cheerleaders?
So the state competition is February 1st. We go up on the 31st of January, and we have a banquet. The two other seniors and I, we got nominated for the honor team, which is, like, based on the grade point average, and we could get scholarships.
That's
so
cool.
We go up for that banquet the night before, and then we stay in a hotel, and we kind of get ready. And then it's the next day at the Roy Wilkins Auditorium in the XL Center.
All right, sounds good. Well, best of luck. I can't wait to see girls perform actually at a wrestling meet. I know we're covering a couple of duels that are at home, so I know I'm going to see you finally. And Claire, thank you very much for stopping in. I do appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You bet. That's Claire Turner then. Again, she's the Castlemanville Comet cheerleader, and they will be performing at stage, as she just mentioned, on February 1st. Thank you again to KM Telecom for being our major sponsor for all interviews. And I'm Joel McCall. Thank you very much for tuning in here.